the Department of Public Health in San Francisco, their website says harm reduction is a public health philosophy that reduces the harm on drug users and the community. If that's the case, we've failed miserably at both. We've lost 3,200 people to overdose fatalities, and our community is turned into a disaster downtown.
I'm Flindt Andersen, founder of PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need. I've been in recovery since 2001, and there isn't much I don't know about recovery. And my mission is to constantly tell the truth about addiction, to make the realities of addiction, recovery, and drug culture known, and to drive awareness and advocate change that ultimately saves lives.
And I'm Jason LaChance, a certified recovery coach with a passion for speaking with others and sharing their knowledge to help others seek recovery and maintain long-term sobriety. And this is the Don't Hide the Scars podcast, presented by PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need. Flindt Andersen, the founder of PAIN. We're welcoming a gentleman here that a good friend of our buddy Tom Wolf, Steve Adami, San Francisco Salvation Army Executive Director. I mean, your recovery journey is amazing. We could probably talk about that all day, but I really am excited to talk about the work that you guys are doing, because it's actually work that I think is really going to help. Like, we're seeing a lot of stuff where it's a lot of throwing at the wall. I don't know how else to say it, but it doesn't seem to actually be doing any good. So I know you got a lot of different initiatives, things going on. I want to dig into the way out and really how that came about.
So the Way Out is a homeless initiative of the Salvation Army San Francisco that coordinates all of its local efforts and programs into a recovery system of care. Just to give you an update, recovery system of care have an objective, and that objective is to help communities and people heal through learning to overcome addiction and stop using drugs and alcohol. So if drugs are causing dysfunction or problems in your life, our hope is to help you to overcome addiction and not perpetuate the madness. I think one of the challenges in San Francisco is every conversation is about overdose prevention. Zero conversations are about recovery. Recovery is not inherent in overdose prevention conversations, but overdose prevention is included in recovery conversations.
Correct.
And I think San Francisco needs to change the dialogue from like everything is about overdose prevention to everything should be about recovery. We should be helping people live life, not running around with Narcan only, trying to prevent people who are inherently dysfunctional and struggling, just trying to stop people from dying. It's just not enough. It needs to be included in a bigger picture.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Now I know why
you.
Tom said we would love you.
Yep. That is that's a great initiative, because it just seems like that we are, as a society, that's all we're doing. Look, we've all done a pretty amazing job of the awareness piece of this, especially when fentanyl hit the scene. And, we've got every damn billboard from here to Maine, saying one pill kills and don't do fentanyl and blah, blah, blah. But what we're not offering is any solutions to recovery and what that looks like. And in my opinion, until some of the powers that be start to understand what addiction is, how it affects the addict's brain, how it affects the family, how it affects everything from A to Z, we're going to have a very, very difficult time pulling out of this mess, if at all. And that's why I love that initiative. And I've been around a long time with this, and I've seen, again, for the lack of a better term, initiatives. I've seen that those coalitions that want to pull everybody together in order to do this thing, but it never seems to get off the ground because, in my opinion, it starts with one thing. It starts with, how do we get the addict clean? Not fully into recovery yet. How do we get them to get into a treatment center where it's long enough to where these folks, because I'm a recovering opiate addict, we're all in recovery here, right? We all know if we don't get that drug out of our system, we might as well stand there and try to piss in the wind, because I don't think anything else is going to be that successful afterwards. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, so let me take a step back. in San Francisco, the Salvation Army has been doing this work for decades. It's nothing new, but we're the only San Francisco organization that manages everything from licensed withdrawal management and residential drug treatment to therapeutic communities, a variety of population-specific transitional housing programs, as well as permanent supportive housing and senior residences. There's some organizations that do drug treatment and transitional. There's some that do therapeutic communities and transitional, and then there's others that do transitional and permanent supportive housing. We're the only organization that does it all, which makes us very unique.
Yep.
So we've created this system of care that gets people off the streets in real time, helps them stabilize and heal, gets them into long-term treatment where they begin to learn how to live. And when they complete treatment, we give them a few years to practice living for free in a transitional housing program that's, semi-structured, where there's, on-site services and requirements. But again, it's free. People are learning how to live. If you make a mistake, you're not going to be homeless or go to prison or get a life sentence, but you might lose a weekend pass and you might have to go back to our stabilization center if you happen to relapse. But we're not going to perpetuate the madness that drove the instability to begin with. So that's kind of the nutshell of the way out. And, your listeners can visit thewayoutsf.org and see the core programs that are included in it. But I want to get back to the conversation where you mentioned, like, how do we just get people off of drugs to begin with?
Yeah.
In my day, it was great. It was very simple. We knew the rules of engagement, right? Jails, institutions, and death. We know that addiction is a progressive disease that ends in death. Dr. Drew coined that, and I actually love the way he came up with that. There is no bottom anymore. So people aren't being offered treatment. People aren't being offered hope. What people are being offered is, you just need a place to live. We know housing is not the solution to addiction, as evident just by the data in San Francisco. 71% of the over 3,000 overdose fatalities happened at a fixed address. Many of them at government-funded housing programs. The solution to addiction is building a community where people can find hope and have purpose. And that's something the Salvation Army has done an amazing job at doing. I got clean in a set of handcuffs, right? I knew the deal. I was going to break the law every day. I was going to get loaded every day. I got busted. I was going to go to prison and clean up. Well, prison populations decreased by 120,000 since I got out of prison. Our county jail went from 2,500 people in county jail to a little bit close to 1,000, right? But the homeless population has exploded in San Francisco and throughout the state. And there is some interesting nexus between people who are homeless, using drugs, and breaking the law. I am not saying by any means every homeless person is using drugs or breaking the law. But I can tell you, I live in San Francisco. When I walk outside, I do see encampments, and I do see people shooting dope in encampments, and I do see 57 bicycles packed next to their tent. Maybe they bought them all, maybe they didn't. But at some point, when you remove accountability from the equation, people are going to do whatever they want to do. So I don't blame the drug addicts. I don't really even blame the drug dealers. What I blame is our response to open air drug markets, people using drugs publicly in front of children, and not promoting recovery. So here's what we've done, is we're competing against a lot of ideologues in this fight for recovery. It's no longer a war on drugs. It's a war on recovery. And what we've done is we've offered incentives. So banners went up today in San Francisco promoting treatment on demand. Medi-Cal, of all the wonderful things Medi-Cal did, it also had some hindrances. And one of them is this level of care assessment to get into drug treatment. So in San Francisco, it can take up to 10 days to get into a drug treatment program because of Medi-Cal. The Salvation Army has been able to work with the Department of Public Health in San Francisco, and we removed all barriers. So all of the requirements that are to get people into treatment, the level of care assessment, a referral, TB shot, COVID vaccines, or clean COVID test, we bring the person into treatment, and then we do all those steps, where everyone else in the city does just the opposite. You've got to make an appointment to do an assessment. You've got to get put on a wait list. And most people don't make it to the assessment if it's not done that day, so they don't come back. And then if they do get finish the assessment that day and they don't get placed in treatment that day, they don't come back for the placement. Because 10 days for somebody who decides they want to get clean, way too long. So we're offering real-time treatment to any San Franciscan that wants care. Second thing we're doing is we're incentivizing treatment. We have a thing called Pathway to Independence. And we're out talking to other programs, treatment providers, and sharing it with our community partners that anyone who completes drug treatment in San Francisco, whether it's through us or not, as long as it's a licensed treatment center, we will offer them 2 years of free housing at the Joseph McPhee Center. Nice. So what we used to hear from people that were using and living on the streets is that, why would I get clean when I have nowhere to live when I get out of treatment? Which makes sense, right? So what we did was to mitigate that is we then started developing these really highly structured transitional housing programs as a form of extended recovery. Our most recent program in our system of care is what we're calling extended transitional. So after the 2 to 2.5 year period post-treatment, if you're still not like financially independent or financially stable where you can move out on your own, we have an additional 10 apartments that inside a community of 110 apartments where people can live and pay a nominal rent. I think it's like $500 to $600 a month, and they can stay there for an additional 2 years. So we're trying to expand those two components of our system of care post-treatment. So we've tripled enrollments in our licensed drug treatment center called Harbor Light. And now we're looking at a bottleneck in our housing programs, and we're trying to take the current 273 beds in our recovery system of care and turn that into 1,000 beds. And, we're the largest nonprofit landowner in San Francisco. We've got a lot of community support, and we're also, a nationally recognized nonprofit with the infrastructure to expand and meet the needs that are taking place on our streets today.
New Perceptions North, the premier drug and alcohol treatment and recovery center in Central California. A full continuum of medically supervised top quality care with programs for detox and patient residential treatment with dual diagnosis, intensive outpatient treatment, sober living support groups, and more. New Perceptions North provides adult men and women with the highest caliber of professional health care, treating each client with compassion and respect, in a safe, comfortable environment to begin the process of recovery to proudly create and sustain a life without addiction. Call 559-978-1507 or visit newperceptionsnorth.com.
Steve, I got another topic here I want to bring up that goes right along with this, and you explained some of it. And one of the things that both Jason and I have, we've done this ourselves. When we're dealing with, for example, the 800 number to call for if you want drug treatment. I don't know if I'm sure you've called that number 1,000 times, but when that 800 number goes to 17 prompts, particularly after 5 p.m., and it takes 20 minutes for the voicemails to continue to flow. Press this button, press that one, blah blah blah, on and on and on. Because we've done it, right? When you
we like to torture ourselves,
yeah,
Steve.
When you call that number, you're not talking to a live person. You're obviously talking to somebody that's not there. Okay. Then what it does at the end, it after 20 minutes or whatever it is, they say, "Oh, what county do you live in?" So we said Fresno County. "Oh, let us connect you with Fresno County Behavioral Health." It clicks right into the same damn prompts, the same everything. As a recovering addict in my addiction, I would have hung up the phone within the first minute. All right, because I couldn't talk to a live body. Number two, nowhere in there did it mention anything about a detox program. It mentioned everything about outpatient. And we know that you cannot put a practicing drug addict into an outpatient program immediately because it's not going to do any good. It's just a waste of time and money. So when I got into it here with our folks from Fresno County, one of the things they said, and I agree, is that they don't have the staff. They don't have the staff to answer the phones. Now this is a national number. So I guess my question is, all right, when this thing starts to implode and you've got literally thousands of phone calls coming in on a daily basis. How are you guys going to handle those phone calls? How is that going to work? And do you have the treatment centers lined up already in order to get somebody in within that 24-hour period, let's say?
Well, that's also a really good question. I mean, thankfully, I no longer work for city government. When I got out of prison, the interesting thing is I got out of prison in 2010, and I happened to get a master's degree while I was on parole. And I did get hired by a law enforcement agency and actually became the director of the San Francisco Adult Probation Department's Reentry Division.
Nice.
And in that time, I did open like 50 or 60 programs and then manage the city's Reentry Council. But when I left last May to join the Salvation Army with a couple of other members from my team, we came together to lead this initiative. One thing that I learned is I don't have to solve the state's problems. I just have to solve San Francisco's problems from a community perspective. So
Right.
I would have hung up the first time they asked me to press 1 or 2 on the voice prompt. I can't do voice prompts. It makes me trying to call
Crazy.
doctors' offices and others makes me kind of crazy. But what we've done is, there's nothing better than firsthand communication. So we have outreach teams going into the community with 3x5 index cards. They're bright yellow. You can't lose them. And, it says, do you want drug treatment, with a map and an address? And
Nice.
we have a culinary academy that goes out every Friday and feeds, handing out outreach cards. We now have these banners that are like 25x9, big yellow banners that have gone up in the Outer Mission District to start in San Francisco that are also promoting treatment on demand. And so we're literally just telling people, show up to 42 McLeod. We don't need to call. You don't need a referral form. You don't need anything. You just need to show up. And by continuing to message all this stuff, people then, it starts to build into the continuum of efforts where people promote treatment. I don't think government is the solution to community problems. I think government needs to fund solutions that promote recovery and foster independence.
Yes.
I think communities need to step up and solve their own problems. What happens at that nexus, though, is that people have different ideologies and what the solution is. But, if I do believe that those who were once the problem, like us three, have become the solution.
Yes.
And that there's nothing better. We have a really strong coalition of about 70 people in San Francisco that I've been working with for about a decade that are all in recovery. We're having a recovery summit, our third annual recovery summit on April 24th in San Francisco. And the conversation's changed here. We did a one pill can kill march a couple weeks ago, and our mayor on the steps of City Hall said that harm reduction is actually causing far more harm than good in San Francisco. Because harm reduction has changed, right? Yeah. In the 80s, it was to stop the spread of disease, HIV and Hep C.
Right.
And then it turned into medication-assisted treatment. And then it turned into use drugs safely. And then, I actually feel as a drug addict that we have victimized drug addicts to the point now where you can't even call them drug addicts.
Yeah,
right. And, nobody hits bottom. Nobody's incentivized to change. And people have lost hope. And we're just creating more people that are going to be dependent on a system that will never fulfill their lives.
Correct. Yep.
Our approach is just the opposite. I have one goal: to give people back their lives so that they can have the same joy that the three of us have, and millions of other people living in recovery. They make it seem like today you need a PhD to get clean, and that's just absolutely not true.
Right.
You just need some real good support. You need to get honest with yourself, and you need to roll up your sleeves and start from scratch. The problem is that these drugs on the streets now are kind of mirroring the same symptoms of people that are like schizophrenic and severely mentally ill. And so we treat everybody like they're severely mentally ill, which they might be, but until we get them off of drugs, we really actually don't know. And we're not actually getting people off of drugs. There is no intersection between accountability and opportunity. Mm-hmm. I got clean because I was held accountable.
Right.
Right. And then I was provided opportunities to change.
Right.
That accountability piece has kind of been removed from the equation. Right. Stores are closing in record numbers in San Francisco. I see data often where people say, oh, crime is down. Crime is not down. People are not reporting crime, which is also tragic. And it's an unhealthy environment. I don't know the last time you guys were in San Francisco, and I do want to say that our streets are looking better in the daytime right now. Feel like we have a district attorney who has really done a really good job. And then we've also got some board of supervisors members who are really on board with this whole recovery movement and have been very supportive of me, my work, and my efforts pre-Salvation Army, and then while I've been at the Salvation Army. And I feel like, Tom Wolf, as you mentioned earlier, has been one of the leading charges of elevating the presence of change. Tom has an amazing story himself, but it really, really is resonating now in San Francisco. People are fed up. People are fed up with what's happened, and I feel like we've come around the corner, and that recovery is back on the map to some degree. We still have some work to do, but back to your 800 number. I don't know if that's going to work. I think what's going to work is communities need to be responsible. The government needs to include community members in recovery in the conversations about how to promote hope, so to speak.
Right. And something again, kudos. I think this is absolutely amazing what you guys are doing, because I have this saying that there is no bottom. The only bottom is death. That's it. And because we've always got 10 more feet to dig. I mean, at least I did. I mean, I could dig a fucking hole to China if I had to, in my addiction. And but one of the things, again, just kind of on a side note here, what lawmakers are not doing is they are not, and you said it, they are not asking us, the ones with long-term recovery under our belts, what works and what doesn't. We're constantly well, not constantly, but we're in Sacramento a lot. We've presented before the Public Health and Safety Committee. We've done all this work. And it's like pushing the ocean back with a broom, because nobody is understanding the addict. Nobody's understanding what it takes for someone to get clean. Nobody understands up there any of it. And if they do ask somebody, it's always somebody that's got 6 months of sobriety under their belt. It's like, what do they know?
No offense, we love you, but
right. But 6 months, you still don't know whether to or go blind. So there's so many things that need to be fixed, obviously. But what you're saying and what you guys are doing up there, man, I just think the world of that, because you're right. We are not talking about recovery. We're talking about maintenance. And why are we keeping 25-year-olds and 30-year-olds and even 40 and 50-year-olds on medications that they're going to have to be on the rest of their life? And along that note, these long-term harm reduction people, they're not even telling people, giving them the information on what the potential health risks are of long-term use of methadone and Suboxone. Because I was on methadone. I had every long-term health risk there is with it. I still do. I've had open heart surgery. I was constipated so bad they had to surgically repair me, And so we're not given enough information to these folks when it comes to the long-term harm reduction. That's my biggest bit of all right now.
And let alone when long-term harm reduction stuff is put out, we've never seen it, Steve. I don't know about you. Treatment, abstinence is never presented in there.
Ever.
Right. I mean, I hate to get in these debates about harm reduction, but I feel like I should weigh in here. There is, you always hear that harm reduction, the ultimate goal is it leads to abstinence, but you don't ever get the abstinence.
Correct.
Because the culture that it's embedded in nowadays is not really pro-recovery. They use that as kind of their segue into allowing their profiles to elevate, but I don't find them interested in it, because recovery is a harder conversation. You got to be honest with people. Right. And what they're doing to their lives. And that doesn't happen. They use terms like harm reduction is an evidence-based approach. Okay, sounds good. The Department of Public Health in San Francisco, their website says harm reduction is a public health philosophy that reduces the harm on drug users and the community. If that's the case, we've failed miserably at both. We've lost 3,200 people to overdose fatalities, and our community is turned into a disaster downtown.
Right.
Right? People are not happy. There's, the Tenderloin has the largest population of school-age children and immigrants.
Right.
People don't want to walk over dead bodies,
Right.
people shooting dope, foil all over the ground, people smoking fentanyl,
Right.
people coming into our city and selling drugs.
Right.
Like, they want to get up in the morning and enjoy a walk, taking their kids to school. And it's crazy what we're having children experience in San Francisco.
Sure.
Yeah.
Again, I don't care if people want to shoot dope or not shoot dope. I don't care if people want to sell dope or not sell dope. But you're not going to do it publicly. And if you get busted, you're going to jail.
Yeah.
Period. If you're a
Period.
drug addict and you can't stop stealing, you're going to jail. And then we should talk about getting you into treatment, because it's a better place for you to be than jail. But we just cannot allow you to live dysfunctionally and it negatively impact everyone else.
Right.
Like, there used to be a Target right by my house, closed, theft. Right? All kinds of stores have just closed.
Yeah.
And, it's tragic what's happened. And I think that the more folks like you and Tom and people that are part of our coalition continue to elevate the conversation, we will continue to change things. I like to say this as often as I can: housing is not a solution to a drug crisis.
Correct.
If housing solved drug addicts' problems, then 71% of the OD deaths wouldn't have happened inside.
Right.
And I do believe everyone should live inside. People should not be living on the streets. But I think there's a way to do it that helps people be part of that solution. And so in San Francisco, rent's high for everyone. And so now it's gotten to the point where you either got to be super rich or desolate. Everybody else in the middle struggles. And that's really unfortunate, that everybody is just sitting here waiting for the hope that someday they're going to get some free housing, instead of really taking the initiative to start to rebuild your life. When I got out of prison, I had 2 goals. I didn't want to get loaded. 3 goals. I didn't want to get loaded. I didn't want to be homeless. And I didn't want to let down my parents anymore.
Right.
50 years of my life, I had been disappointing them. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I did know what I wasn't going to do.
Right.
And that was my starting point. And by building this network of folks in recovery that, I just set small goals and moved forward, right? And, things worked out. I was very fortunate. I got very lucky. I've had some great opportunities. And all I want to see for the next person is to have the identical opportunities that I got.
Yep.
And, it's doable. But it starts with having people walk through recovery, which is scary, right? You got to get honest with yourself. You got to go apologize to people that you hurt. You've got to, take ownership for things you did. You got to kind of clear the slate so that you can move forward with it. It's a lot easier just to stay loaded and not have to worry about any of that stuff and not be responsible.
Exactly.
But then you don't find the purpose and meaning as you do when you get clean.
Right. Let me just change gears here for a quick second. I got to bring it up. Are you guys wrestling with dancesafe.org up there?
With what?
It's called dancesafe.org. I've
never heard of it.
Okay.
I'm going to look it up though right now.
You need to look it up. All right. These guys, this organization, and they're all over the country. I believe they started in San Francisco.
Interesting.
And look, you do your own research on it. I'm just going to give you just 2 seconds of my take on these folks. They are dangerous to your cause, our cause, to the recovery cause in general. But you make up your own decisions, your own mind on that one. But take a look at them, because they're in your backyard.
Yeah. Well, and I think I've got Steve, I got one problem with the like safe supply and all that. It was put best when I was in high school, 96. Yeah, I'm a little younger than you guys, but I'm still older than some of our listeners. And our teacher in our health class said, somebody said, "Oh, so we're talking about safe sex," and he laughs and he goes, "What's that?" He goes, "They're safer." And I really hate that there's this prevailing safe supply. No, safer. Safer is the goal. There's nothing safe about using illicit drugs. Heck, sometimes there's nothing safe about the prescription drugs that we get, that we might get one and pharmacists didn't notice it counteracts this other thing. Next thing we know, we're in the hospital and they're trying to help save it. I'm tired of this term safe. There's nothing safe about this.
Nothing.
There was nothing safe about the 40, 50 pills that Flindt was popping, heroin, whatever it is, the booze that I was drinking at a rate of maybe 30 cans of beer at minimum a day. There's nothing safe about this.
Right.
Can we just cut that term out, please? And people really understand, because I think it's that language manipulation that makes people go, oh, okay, it's safe. And they completely ignore the public health and safety fact of what this is.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really interesting that, society has memory loss, because we had safe supply. I think it was called Oxycontin. And, I think they forgot the rate of children being abandoned, going to foster care, crime, suicide, families decimated, that Oxycontin caused. So if safe supply was the solution to our problem, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. We tried safe supply. It didn't work. I say this often, and this is in my response to government-funded shooting galleries, also known as safe consumption sites. Addiction is a miserable existence. Giving somebody a place to shoot dope doesn't change that.
Correct.
It perpetuates that, right? And the conversation is never centered around recovery. I get it, man. People have experienced childhood trauma. People have experienced all kinds of pain in their lives, and they use drugs to solve a problem. I get that part of it. But the solution to that is not to perpetuate that any longer.
Correct.
The solution to it is to remove the drugs and do some deep work to overcome that trauma to make you whole again. And we never get there as long as the person's loaded, right? Because as long as they're loaded, you really can't get honest and do that deep work, because it's very traumatizing to have to relive some of that stuff that people went through. And I recognize that, like, a lot of people have been through some really bad shit. And, I was in Delancey Street for you guys know Delancey Street?
Yeah, absolutely. I do.
So, when I was cycling in and out of jail and prison, at one point in my life, judges got so tired of seeing me, they sent me to Delancey Street. And so I was there for 5 years.
Wow.
And got hired as the general manager of the Tonga room at the Fairmont Hotel. And sadly enough, went back to prison for 5 years, and then got out of prison in 2010, as I mentioned. But when I was in Delancey Street, we did this thing called the dissipation after you'd been there about a year, and it was with your closest peers. And you spend a weekend with your closest peers learning about their lives and hearing the stuff they went through. And that moment in my life really kind of opened my eyes to not only the commonalities of people that are in recovery or struggling with addiction have, but like when you think the shit you experienced, nobody else ever went through, actually everybody else went through it. And then we're all going through this stuff together. It's when you start to have those open conversations and build friendships and form bonds that then everybody kind of moves up the hill together in recovery. That's why these homeless encampments are so successful, right? They've got their friends there with them, right? And so the Salvation Army in San Francisco is just trying to create those same environments in healthy settings that help people move forward with their lives. I mean, there's all kinds of, Tom actually went through our treatment program in San Francisco, one of ours. Yeah. He didn't go through the Harbor Light Center, but he went through one of our faith-based programs that really changed his life. But, like the rest of us, he was given an option: jail, treatment, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes we choose treatment, sometimes we choose jail and prison. And he chose treatment, and he got better. And he's been a living testament to the power of recovery. And the more people hear his story, your story, my story, my friend's story, it gives people hope. Like, I remember I was speaking in San Quentin when pre-pandemic, and somebody's like, dude, if you could get clean, anybody could get clean. I was like, yeah, absolutely, right? It's like, it's not complicated. The complicated part is learning to live life after you remove drugs.
Absolutely.
And that's what we at the Salvation Army are so good at. The system of care, people that are moving through it, it can be a 3-year journey with us where you're in these, and again, I want to say it out loud, it's free. We're not asking for any money. We are funding most of it ourselves, but we want to make sure as a demonstration that if you give people the right structure, the right support, and the right opportunities, given they've already seen the worst of their lives and have had really bad circumstances, they can actually achieve greatness later on in life.
Yeah.
It is a perfect example of that, and
Yeah.
so many others. And, if you believe in people, you invest in recovery.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please call PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, at 559-579-1551, or visit us online at painnonprofit.org. Follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Pain Nonprofit. And please subscribe to the Don't Hide the Scars podcast and share with others wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. And if you would like to donate to PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, please click the link in the description to make your tax-deductible donation today and help us save more lives gripped by addiction.
I want to just go back real quick again to the long-term harm reduction. This is what I have found, Steve, over the last, well, especially since fentanyl hit the scene. First of all, I've been to over 30 funerals, in the last 10 years, just here in Fresno, of young people that have, under the age of 30 that have died from an overdose. And again, it's hard when you're talking about parents that have lost a child to this. But here's what I'm finding. I'm finding a lot of these parents that decide to get into to become advocates because their child has passed due to an overdose. They are, and again, how do you argue with a parent that lost a child? But what they're promoting is long-term harm reduction, because their thought is, if we only would have kept them on a Suboxone or a methadone, their thinking is my child would not be dead right now. And so at least this is what's happening around here. So they're promoting Suboxone, methadone, whatever it is, until they're ready, right? That's one thing. The other statement that's really starting to crawl up my fanny here is, let's meet them where they're at. And Jason and I talked about this the other day. And I'm a pretty simple guy. So when somebody says, let's meet them where they're at, my first response is, really? How are you going to get an addict to understand what you're actually trying to tell them while they're in their current use, while they're in their current state of using all of these drugs? And I hope I'm explaining myself right here, because meeting them where they're at is, again, I don't think that's the correct angle to take here. Tell me if you think I'm wrong, because I'll be the first guy to admit it.
What they don't do is they don't finish the sentence. And the sentence is, meet them where they're at and pull them up to where you're at.
There you
right?
go.
And they don't
Thank you.
do that. They leave them there.
There you go.
I think that it is good to meet people where they are and have honest conversations about why they are where they are, and explain that there is a pathway out of that. I was speaking at a conference one time of federal probation officers, and I shared my story, and this was when I was working with the city, and shared the work I was doing. And a federal probation officers said, we offer client-centered plans. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And they're like, well, we allow the client to tell us what they want to do and how they're going to do it. And I said, wait a minute. I've been shooting dope and robbing banks for 2 decades, and I'm going to tell you what I need? I actually need somebody to tell me what I need.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the place that these conversations really should be starting.
Right.
I do think that at some point, and I do feel for parents. I think my mom and dad were always happiest when I was locked up, because they knew that A,
Sure.
I wasn't dead, and B, I wasn't going to kill somebody.
Right.
And so they were always felt safest when at least I was somewhere where they weren't going to get a phone call that I dropped dead one day.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you shot heroin, probably pre-fentanyl. You on pain pills or?
Mine was mostly pain pills. Yeah. Mine was 70, 80 a day.
So most of my friends that shot heroin, they took methadone to get well, so they could go hit licks all day and steal shit, so they could get money to buy heroin and shoot heroin.
Right.
So leaving people on, and again, I'm not against promoting like people that need to be on some type of medication assisted treatment, but you need to be present. So if you're on so much methadone that your, chin is in your chest, or you're drooling, you're probably on too high of a dose. Right. If you can't be present to raise your children while you're on methadone, we should probably lower your dose. But you have to be present in your life. Recovery is about being present and being accountable. I don't want to say people that are on some type of medication-assisted treatment aren't in recovery, because I do think they are. And we're dealing with some really strong opioids. And, it's just part of the response today. My challenge with it is that health officials promote living on it forever. Correct. And that's where I think I split hairs with those folks. Yep. My goal, again, is to give people back their lives. So you got to be present to have your life back. You got to be able to make decisions. You got to be able to think through things. And I think when people are just changing out one thing for the other, it doesn't solve the problem. It's an internal problem. People have pain and trauma. They use drugs to mask that shit. And by using different drugs to mask it, it's still masked. And we got to get people over that hump, and we got to get people healed and make them whole again. And that's what recovery does. There's nothing better. I think what I have found to be the most rewarding thing is in recovery is I can call one of my friends and just share how shitty my day was. Right? And I often get feedback. Some of it I caused, and they'll tell me. And you go to bed at night and you start thinking like, what did I do wrong? What did I do good? How can I improve? And how can I help someone else? Right. And you get up the next day doing those things. We're not going to bed thinking, how am I going to get money to get loaded? Right. How am I going to stop my old lady from calling me and bitching at me that I haven't paid child support? Right. What am I going to do? Do I get a job? Like, we're actually in the process of living life with everybody else, demonstrating that people can overcome addiction, people can reclaim their lives, and people can become whole again. And whole people make stronger families. Stronger families make stronger communities. Stronger communities make for a healthy environment for everybody to kind of enjoy the benefits of living in community. And that's not what we've had for several years in San Francisco. We've had this ongoing debate and dialogue about what's best for people that are shooting heroin or smoking fentanyl. And again, like, I don't care who shoots heroin or smokes fentanyl. You're not doing it in front of my house. You're not doing it in front of children. You're not going to go steal everything that's not tied down so that you can support your habit. Right. That's what you're not going to do. Right. And so we need to come up with a plan to, as a community or as a state, how are we going to address what's happening on our streets? I am a little bit wore out of hearing every other conversations about housing. No conversations are about helping people overcome addiction. Right. And no conversations are about promoting wellness. It's about perpetuating madness and moving people inside so we don't have to look at them. But the problems still exist. Right.
Yep. Right. Yeah. It's want to sweep it under the rug and, ooh, look what we did. They have houses. Don't we feel good about ourselves? We can virtue signal and move along. No, you just still human lives. And you're just leaving them there to die eventually, one way or another. Right. And I'll get pissed off when this is
that's his topic right there. Yeah. That's what it is. Steve, I also own a treatment center, and and we use Suboxone as a detox tool. And it's a great drug for that. It really is. But what we start to do almost immediately is we start to taper that drug down during the detox process. So when they walk out of there, they're not still strapped to the Suboxone. And again, just touching briefly on the Suboxone and the methadone piece here, what people are not being told, for the most part, is that when you are on these drugs, especially methadone, you cannot be in Hawaii forget your methadone and go into a clinic in Hawaii and get your dose. You can't even do it if you're on the mainland. You can't. You are so strapped to this stuff, even though you can get take homes. Believe me, I've been through the whole routine with methadone. But in the end, you are tied to that. And God forbid if you want to get off of methadone, because as a private treatment center, we cannot have methadone on our property because this is governed by the DEA and the federal government. We won't even take somebody if they leave a program, a methadone program, and they want us to detox them. We won't even take somebody that's taking over 20 milligrams because it is just too damn hard. It's just not going to work. I tried doing it on my own. They had me on 190 milligrams to start. That was the highest legal dose. And you're right. I was falling asleep at traffic lights in the middle of Fresno, and had to be woken up. These places are not treatment centers as they promote, XYZ treatment center. No, they're maintenance centers. And every time a methadone patient walks in there and I need my dose upped, they're going to up it, because they want to keep the client coming back and keep coming back for more. So I finally did it. I went down, I think I did a milligram a week, and I took it down all the way to the point where I walked in there and just said, here, you can take this box and shove it up your ass because I'm out of here, but I really did do that. But again, the point here is that we're about telling the truth here. Okay. And that's what I love about you right now and what you guys are doing. You're speaking the truth. People need to be informed on all sides of that methadone issue, the Suboxone issue. They need to be told the truth about everything. Because let me tell you something, as well as I, if I'm somewhere with my family, if I'm taking my grandkids to a little league baseball tournament somewhere in Santa Cruz, right? And I forget my methadone, my ass is driving back to Fresno. Right. Because there's no way after that 24-hour period, I'm going to be able to sustain any type of normalcy.
I mean, one of the challenges is, to be licensed by the Department of Healthcare Services as a, residential treatment provider or withdrawal management, you're required to take medication-assisted treatment. So for us, it's not an optional thing in our state license program. But I'll tell you what I did do in 2021. When I was with the city leading the probation department's Reentry Division, I worked with members of the Black community that had it with drug treatment in San Francisco. Nobody could get clean in these treatment programs. Nobody was doing well. And a lot of it was attributed to this culture of medication-assisted treatment. And again, I'm not against it. I don't really have an opinion either way, bad or good. I never took it, was never on it. But they had opinions about it. And we worked to create what we called was a therapeutic teaching community. So it wasn't a state license program. It was done through a model similar to Delancey Street, through the vein of a transitional housing program with structure. And it's called the TRP Academy. And people pushed back on us. The Board of Supervisors and the mayor were supportive of it, but health officials kept pushing back on us and wanted us to allow people to take methadone or Suboxone there. And they were adamant. This was the carve-out program for people who wanted to be away from all drugs, including methadone or Suboxone. And it's ran by an organization in San Francisco called Positive Directions Equals Change. And I'll tell you, there's 70 beds in that program. The program's been at 90% capacity occupancy since the doors opened. It's highly structured, and people thrive there. And they do well because of the culture that the organization creates. And so when we wrote the design for the program, we worked closely with the organization that was going to be running it, and then other members of our coalition. And then when we opened and launched the program, once it ramped up, it's been full since. And the program has been operational since, I think, September of 2021. And it's been doing fantastic. So there are places that people can go in San Francisco to be away from medication-assisted treatment, but as a state licensed provider, you have to take it. And I agree with what you're saying. Like the director of our program, our licensed treatment program, was also a heroin addict and who was on methadone, probably hundreds of times. And, methadone gets in your bones. It's very hard to kick. They say it's horrible, but he has conversations with folks that are on medication assisted treatment and try to find out what their goals are with their lives and how he can create awareness to be present in their lives, right? And to be present, you should ultimately be off of all drugs. Mm-hmm. And so there are several people who are on very high doses that have come off, and that people are excited, like you are, when they come off, to find that. So, but you're competing with health officials who will tell you, you will die if you stop taking methadone. I think the problem with recovery is like back in the 50s when they created therapeutic communities for mentally ill people. And recovery was really ran then by people in recovery.
Yeah.
And then in like 2000, we let medical doctors in the door.
Right.
And now we just got, I say it all the time. We don't need any more medical doctors or clinicians.
None.
We got this. You can just get this one out. You've done your best. Very nice people, but there's more work to be done. And we need to turn back control of recovery to people in recovery.
Absolutely.
I mean, they understand it better than anyone else.
Yeah, it's like
absolutely.
We had my buddy Darren Prince on here, and he was talking about when he was on Suboxone and Dr. Drew, addiction medicine specialist, Dr. Drew, not a stand-in, not just your run-of-the-mill doctor, not an ER addiction medicine specialist went, Darren, how did you get clean? Oh, well, I've been on Suboxone. Well, how long have you been on that? I don't know, 6, 8, what did he say, 9 months, something like that. He goes, oh, you're just as addicted to that as you were the other thing. And then helped him taper. Because why? Addiction medicine specialist. That's the doctors we need present in this.
Right.
That's the people that like, hey, get in with us. How many hundreds and hundreds of addicts has he helped and people along those veins? And it's, yeah.
And again, you ask anybody, this is what's interesting. You ask the majority of us in long-term recovery. Most of us are, again, against long-term medically assisted treatment.
Right.
But yet I am finding that there are some, without mentioning names, that own treatment facilities that are now in favor of long-term medically assisted treatment. And I believe that is because, by the way, it has nothing to do with any of us sitting here, all right? But I believe because they have potential clients.
Right. I mean, it changes. It's so funny how the tune changes. It's like one day in the 1990s, you're pro-recovery. And then it's
right.
Like those communities, they yell at people. They hold people accountable. Right. They're bad. Right. And we take this, we make drug addicts nowadays too comfortable. Yep. Right. There is no bottom anymore. Right. And it's created this, nobody has responsibility now for their own lives. It's somebody else is going to take care of you, and we're going to allow you to just wither away.
Right.
And I do think that it does create this culture, especially in the nonprofit sector, where people follow the money. They follow this trail. I can't tell you, like I have friends that get out of prison and they're like, they've been clean for a few years and they're like, I just want to help. I want to give back. I want to work in a treatment center. And then they go to work in the treatment center. They're like, dude, this isn't how I got clean. I can't work there.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And so, I got clean the first time in Delancey Street, and it was, and I didn't intend on staying. My goal was only to get out of jail and prison, and then I was going to split. And then I got there, and everybody there at the time, there was 500 people there, and in San Francisco, Delancey Street. And but everybody there was just like me. And it's the first time I'd been in a community where everybody thought like me, acted like me, had the same belief systems as I, but they had changed all of those things. Yeah. And they were able to convey this message, right? Delancey Street operates on this premise of each one teach one. Mm-hmm. So every time somebody learned something new, they then turned around and taught it to the people coming behind them. and essentially teaching us how to live the way they'd been taught how to live. Right. And then we improve together. And that's just not the culture now. When you go to a treatment center in San Francisco, most treatment center, the line for medication is out the door.
Yep.
Right. And it's just everybody, everybody's like, my doctor said I could do this. My therapist said I could do that. There is no culture of community. And that's what's so unique about the Harbor Light Center in San Francisco. Again, it's got a withdrawal management program and a residential treatment program. It's partially funded by the city, by the health department, but we don't take Medi-Cal. So it is a long-term program. It's an evidence-based model rooted in the therapeutic community delivery system. So we've taken the best of both worlds and compiled it together where people are involved in their own recovery. And it's a 6-month program where Medi-Cal programs are what? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days.
Maybe. Right.
Yeah. Or they're promoting out treatment, as you said earlier, because why? It's cheaper.
It's cheaper. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
We got to get back to what's best for people. And in San Francisco, we're going through this whole culture shift about nonprofit accountability, right? There's all kinds of stories coming out daily about nonprofit nightmares and no accountability. And I do think when, you're funding hundreds of millions of dollars worth of programs, that there should be some key performance indicators. So if you're running a treatment program, I think the biggest indicator is, are people getting clean? Right. And then are they staying clean? Right. That's likely the most important thing. And we need to only fund programs that are kind of promoting recovery and fostering independence.
Yes.
Instead of promoting the madness, as you'd mentioned earlier about this other sector of organizations that are embedded now in this response that's keeping people sick, so to speak.
Yeah. Right. Or even worse, where you see the bottom line at the end of the year, and 10% went to actually helping people and 90% went to salaries.
Well, you want to hear something crazy? So we have a department of homelessness, and I remember when they created that department, I said to myself, this was the first sign that we will never solve it. And their budget is $672 million. And of that $672 million, $400 million, or like 60-something%, doesn't go to solve homelessness. It goes to pay people's rent who are not homeless.
Jesus.
Just perpetuating this same cycle. Data was released not too long ago that 8 out of 10 people in our shelter system return to the streets. Yet every year we keep doubling down on evidence-based models that do the same thing. Right. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. In the last 3 years, the city and county of San Francisco has contracted with a high school to run housing programs, have contracted with an organization whose first role in the city was managing kind of public restrooms, which was great. It was keeping them clean, giving people that didn't have a place to live, a place to use a clean restroom. They're managing housing programs now. So people that should be managing services in San Francisco should have some level of expertise in the actual service being delivered. And, the Department of Public Health makes it so hard for small CBOs to get licensed and run drug treatment programs that would serve their community, just because the minimum qualifications they would never be able to meet. And we've been having those broader conversations in the city too, because the majority of overdose deaths in San Francisco have come among Black males, adults, and yet they're not included in the conversation about the response to that. And there was a public meeting a couple of weeks ago, and folks I know showed up who were not really actually invited and said, like, this is enough. We want to be included in these conversations. And we want an equal share of funds in San Francisco to be allocated towards abstinence models where people are not using. So if you're going to allocate X for harm reduction, you must equally match that for services that promote abstinence and recovery.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We're finding down here. I just wrestled with another county, not Fresno County, but another one, over an organization that got awarded a contract that their average percent of their budget that went to program services was 6.1%. and 91% went to compensation for their higher ups, their CEO and down the line. And they still got awarded the contract. So who's sleeping with who? You know, I mean, there's so much of this going on that it's maddening. You know, it truly is, because there's a lot of us out there that we want to be able to help. We want to be able to look. You and I see the problem. Jason and I sees the problem. You know, I'm just having a hard time grasping, even at 68 years of age, and I know I'm not going to see this in my lifetime. But I don't really think that we're going to see much change here in the next, you know, 5 to 10 years, other than, you know, guys like you and your organization and a few of us, you know, doing some things that are going to help. But it's maddening, Steve. You know, it's when we sit here and we're going to these funerals and we're looking at the amount of money and people, and I'll say it on the air, I don't give a anymore. You know, places like dancesafe.org, right, that are getting, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, you know, in funding, okay, to keep people trapped. This is my saying. Short-term harm reduction keeps us alive. Long-term harm reduction keeps us trapped, you know, and people are willing to pay organizations, like I said, millions of dollars for their organizations to keep people trapped.
You mentioned something about these nonprofit CEO salaries, and there's a lot of social media stuff that went out about a month ago in San Francisco about the same topic, and I do want to share. My boss oversees about maybe $140 million budget. A large portion of that is donor funds that people give us.
Sure.
And he makes a very, very, very small stipend salary because it's not a job for him, it's a calling. Right. And it's something that he's been doing when he dedicated his life to the Salvation Army. And it goes to be all Salvation Army officers operating the same thing, that is really the work is a calling for them. And I think when you operate from that premise, again, it's about helping people improve the quality of their lives, and the culture that they create in our work is just fantastic, because it's about promoting health and wellness to others and helping people who are struggling improve their lives. Long-term harm reduction is not going to solve any problems. It's just going to keep people stuck. Right. And, you know, we have to continue to push back on that culture that that's the best a drug addict can do, because it's just absolutely not. The three of us wouldn't be having that conversation. You know, it's also true that the three of us might not even be able to get clean in today's culture.
Correct.
Because nobody promotes recovery.
Right.
And, you know, that's what I feel bad about. Like, people out there are stuck because the people doing outreach, the people connecting with them on a daily basis, by and large, funded through government. You know, San Francisco's got 860 outreach teams funded by the Department of Public Health and other departments. It's just crazy. Nobody's offered treatment. Nobody's talking about hope. The people that are doing it through their own staff, like our organization, we're not funded to do that work. We do that work because that's our culture. Right. Our culture is to share hope and to let people know that there's another way of life, and that there's other opportunities that are available to them in real time. And right. That's how you begin to erode the kind of the destructive fiber of society and this culture that promotes safe drug use. And as you mentioned earlier, there really is no such thing as using illicit drugs safely.
None. Yeah. None.
I don't think it could have been put any better. I mean, you know, hey, if this isn't a calling, do us a favor, get the out, because it's clearly just about your bottom line.
Right.
And your pocketbook.
Right.
You can go make that somewhere else. This is people's lives.
I learned one thing, not learned, but I found out one thing before I started this nonprofit back in 2009. And people can think what they want about the Reverend Billy Graham. Okay. But let me tell you something. If memory serves, because it is slipping a little bit, he made a yearly salary, I think at top end was like $120,000 a year. That call it an empire that he had, whatever you want to call it. All right. Now he had some travel paid for and those kinds of things, but the man made a modest salary, in all that time. Oh, you're muted. Oh,
Sorry about that. That's
That's
a little malfunction on my computer.
that's
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, I said Billy Graham was, I believe, he never made more than $120,000 a year, because it was his calling. Think what you want about the man, but I happen to love the guy, but it's like, 120,000. It's because that was his calling. That's what he was led to do. But Steve, I've told people this in the past. If I ever had to start another nonprofit, I wouldn't do it. Okay, I mean,
especially in today's
world. I mean, it's a pain in the ass. But I still wake up every day saying, okay, who can we help today? What am I in store for? Bring it on. Let's go do it. As many times as I want to, run screaming into the night, I can't do it because we all have people we're responsible for in this, and that's what it comes down to.
People that are out there promoting, safe consumption sites, safe supply, safe drug use, housing as a solution to addiction. I have yet, and again, I'm old, but I have yet to see one of them step in to be part of the solution.
Right.
So go take a drug addict off the street and let them live at your house.
Right.
And they could call my mom first, and she could give them some insight of what that will be like for them.
Exactly.
But those of us who are doing the work in the community, we open our arms to bringing in people like that to help them improve. But the conversation is a little bit different, right? We understand people have been victimized, but we don't treat people like victims. Right. We treat people like adults that have had some setbacks that we believe can achieve greatness if given the right set of tools to do so. And what's the first step? Got to quit getting loaded. If you don't quit getting loaded, nothing's going to change, right?
Nothing's going to change.
People say nothing changes, nothing changes.
That's it.
So the very first step is we got to get you off of drugs. I can't tell you how many people show up to past programs I oversaw and current, and they're like, oh, I just want housing. Okay, well, we do have a lot of housing, but we're not in the housing business.
Right.
We're in the people business, and changing lives inherently is different than being in the housing business, right?
Exactly.
Changing lives, housing needs to be part of the solution because you're going to need a place to live. But just giving somebody a place to live doesn't help them change their lives.
No,
it doesn't do it. Permanent supportive housing we should change that name because it's not supportive at all, right? It's optional. And you guys know what it's like when you're getting loaded or drinking. Like, I'm not going to go ask somebody for help. Like, I'm doing my thing, right? So it's nice that we fund all these, it's this case manager culture. I said this when I got out of prison. We shifted all the money from the prison guards union to the case managers, right? But nowhere in that equation did we help anybody get their shit together. Right? It was just like, it was just a big money shift. Right. And now it's just like, it's the new prison guards union, right? The case managers.
There it is.
I don't think you guys needed a case manager to find your connection, to find the dope house, to get to the liquor store, to hit a lick to get money to get loaded. But nowadays, like people can't get to DMV without their case manager's help. Like you found your connections house. You can get to DMV. Trust me. Figure it out.
Exactly. Steve, this has been an absolute pleasure. Seriously, thank you so very much. Not only for your time, but what you're doing. And gosh, we got to do this again. Mr. Andersen,
let's do it. I'd like to dive into a lot more of this with you. You know what? This has been wonderful. Thank you for joining us. Keep doing what you're doing. We're going to keep doing what we're doing, and hopefully we're doing some good. Okay, there it is, buddy. But thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. I do want to share our website.
Yep. I'll put the link in the description too. Go ahead.
So it's really simple. thewayoutsf.org. And you can sign up for our newsletter. You can get involved. There's different ways to get involved, but they're all on our website. And we'd love to, continue to share our work with you and others in the community. So thanks again for having me. It's been great. Look forward to some additional conversations about some other topics as well. So fantastic.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please call PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, at 559-579-1551, or visit us online at painnonprofit.org. Follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Pain Nonprofit. And please subscribe to the Don't Hide the Scars podcast and share with others wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. And if you would like to donate to PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, please click the link in the description to make your tax-deductible donation today and help us save more lives gripped by addiction.